The Nittany Lions travel to the D.C. metro area, hoping to drain the swamp and starve the turtle offense of oxygen.
It is the Big Ten opener. Penn State's never won a Big Ten championship without winning that opener.
Coming off a bye week, I just can't wait till Saturday. Well, guess what? We don't have to. We got a Friday night game, and you don't have to wait any longer for the blue-white tailgate. It's coming up now.
Okay, so it's the Big Ten opener. Steve, Jay, Todd, Josh Sperber in a moment. A Friday night game. We're all going to gather. Well, I'm not. I'm going to be down there. We're not going to gather at your house.
Not my house. I won't be there either.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row, too, this Big Ten opener on a Friday night on the road. So I wouldn't say it's tradition yet, but the second year in a row.
Yeah, well, it's for the Big Ten, it's not the right thing to do. And I've got the good this week, so I can't mention it. No. I can't do that. All right, so let's get to the update desk presented by our great friends at PSECU. Josh Sperber standing by at the update desk to take us through.
Last week, HBO announced that Penn State would be one of 4 teams featured in their college football 24/7 show premiering on October 9th. The other 3 teams are Washington State, Arizona State, and Florida. Despite being on bye last week, Penn State jumped up 1 spot in each of the polls. They're now at 12th in the AP poll and 11th in the coaches poll, in big part due to Michigan's loss against Wisconsin. As we look forward to the Maryland game this week, there are 2 milestones that you can bank on happening for Penn State. Sophomore receiver KJ Hamler needs just 1 receiving yard to reach 1,000 for his career, and his quarterback Sean Clifford needs 24 pass yards to reach the same milestone. Each will be the 33rd Nittany Lion to reach 1,000 yards in their career.
All right, Josh, appreciate that very much. Now we're going to revisit our keys to the bye week. Mine was step back, reassess, and see where you are, because I like the timing of the bye weeks, and you guys, your keys were, well, stay healthy was one.
We'll stay healthy, but also self-scout, and we'll see if they make some adjustments on Friday night.
I don't remember what I said 30 minutes ago. How am I supposed to remember my keys from last week? Actually, I think I talked about maybe getting some personnel decisions made in the off week and kind of deciding, okay, we're starting to end and go into the Big Ten play. Who's going to get a little bit more playing time? Who's going to get a few more carries? Those types of things. Those things also come into play now as with the redshirt rule, getting people 4 games. They played 3. We'll see if some guys get less playing time depending on how the game goes.
All right, so James Franklin likes the spot his program is in right now heading into the Big Ten season.
Probably no one unit is dominating statistically, but we're playing really good team football. So, you know, we got to take some steps to be more dominant in all 3 areas. But if we can just keep marginally getting better every single day, then we'll like where we'll be.
All right. So, what about your thoughts about where they are right now?
Well, I think we're still in a little bit, you know, we'll look at statistics in a little bit, but I think it's still, the Idaho game really kind of inflates a lot of statistics. You look at almost 60% of Penn State's rushing yards came in that one game. So I think there's still a little bit we got to find out about this team.
It's always a little strange with a transition year for quarterback, for a young quarterback, and how long it takes them maybe to find their groove, find their receivers. You know, who do you go to on 3rd down? Still a lot of mystery to this team that's going to be solved in the next couple of weeks as they hit a 5-week stretch with Big Ten opponents. The next 2, I think, are going to really tell us a lot at Maryland, home against Purdue. Those are good quality but not elite opponents. So these are things I think we're going to find out a lot of answers in the next 2 weeks.
And this is an intriguing matchup, Todd.
Yeah, I agree. Look, Maryland's got a lot of speed. They got a lot of explosiveness. They blew out Syracuse, 63 points against Syracuse. What impressed me in that game, obviously the offense, but is the fact they kept Syracuse to 20 points. That is an innovative offense, and that's not an easy offense to stop. So they are able to get the job done on both sides of the ball, Jay. But it's Maryland being Maryland. Then they go out and they lose to Temple. So it's really kind of a weird program.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the numbers here, as a matter of fact, about Maryland to this point. This is how the series has played out. That's how the last few years have played out. And you can see Penn State's won the last 12 when they've gone down to Maryland. And for Tariq Castro-Fields, Well, let's face it, he's going home, and he talked about the matchup.
A fast start is something you always need, especially when you're away, because you want to silence the crowd and kind of not have them have momentum. So starting fast is something we was preaching last week and definitely this week. So.
And I think that's exactly what he's talking about, Jay. Silence the crowd. In other words, like, take them out of it.
Well, the good thing is going to be about 45% of them are going to be Penn Staters, because we always show up at Maryland and kind of take over the place. So hopefully he silences the Maryland crowd.
Right, yeah. Yeah. They're going to bring in, by the way, they have a platform. If you're when you look at it on TV, it's on the left end. They're going to bring extra bleachers in for more students. Big deal for them. We'll have more after this. All right, let's talk about Maryland. Now, Maryland off to a really good start, guys. I mean, the first two games, yeah, Howard you can throw out, but the Syracuse game does draw a lot of attention, don't you think?
No question. I mean, you put 63 points up. You had 630 yards. But again, for the third year in a row, Maryland has an upset in September. They swept Texas 2 years before. But the difference is Penn State's not playing later in the year. Their quarterback is still healthy because they've had quarterback injury issues the last couple of years. So the question is, can they maintain that momentum?
It does make them a little bit more of a dangerous opponent to face them in September when the quarterback's healthy, because you can almost always rely on them going to the third string eventually during the year. But they somewhat remind me of Pitt. You know, they come out and they just have some puzzling performances that you're like, what is this team all about? And then all of a sudden they upset somebody and beat a ranked team on the road or at home or whatever it may be. So you kind of don't know what you're going to get when you face the Terrapins.
So let's take a look at the coach's file presented by our good friends at McClanahan's and take a look at what Mike Loxley has done. Brought to you by McClanahan's. And Mike Loxley, you know, obviously when you look at the New Mexico State deal, that didn't go well. He and James Franklin coached together. And then he went to the Alabama halfway house, and there you go. You're back on. If you go there, you're back on track, Jay.
No question. And I know. There's not a lot of love between these two guys. I mean, I know they work together, but that's a pretty open secret in the coaching profession.
Yeah, and you know, anytime you do some good work with Nick Saban, that's a steep learning curve. I mean, you're going to learn a heck of a lot. So the New Mexico stuff, you can look at that record and go, what were you doing down there? But then all of a sudden you go work for Coach Saban and his staff, and if you can just walk on there and you'd learn a lot of stuff just listening for that. So we'll see. He's a good recruiter, game day manager, you know, game day coach. I don't know. Still remains to be seen.
And in today's college football world, you get transfers, and let's go right to quarterback, Josh Jackson. He had been at Virginia Tech. Now he's the quarterback here at Maryland. Jay, what do you think of him as a quarterback?
Well, I think we're going to talk about this in film room a little bit. On first and second down, throwing the ball, getting the ball out quickly. But, you know, we're going to talk about he stares a little bit here and there. I don't think this is the guy they want to be in 3rd and 10, 7 or 8 times in a game and having him trying to make some throws downfield. But his dad was a great assistant coach at Michigan for many, many years in Iowa. So tremendous respect for him and his family.
All right, so now let's get to the running backs. You want to talk about speed. Anthony McFarland and Javon Leake. Tariq Castro-Fields is very aware of Anthony McFarland.
I didn't even need tape because I scrimmaged them in high school, which is, you know, it's kind of crazy how far we came. So I knew who he was. But as far as now, he just shows elite speed. He's able to break tackles. So you really have to, whoever wraps him up, has to get him on the ground, and everyone has to pursue.
Yeah, that's the thing. Elite speed. You watch the tape and you'll see 1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yard, 40.
I mean, this is a back that if you're a half step off, or if he can split the secondary, and that's the difference between what Penn State has played the first 3 weeks as opposed to now. If you're 1 step off and that guy gets loose, it's going to be 7 points, not a game of 20.
Which one are you talking about, McFarland or Leake?
Yeah,
both,
right.
all of the above.
You're talking about McFarland, but talk about Leake a little bit.
Yeah.
The guy's 6 foot, 200-some pounds. He's got a little bit of power to him as well. And look, he's the one that was on some people's watch list as a second-team preseason All-Big Ten running back. So, and McFarland's explosive. They just fed McFarland 26 times also. So, look, they're committed to the run. They want to continue the run. Jay, to your point, they don't want Josh Jackson sitting at 3rd and 10. he was 15 of 38 against Temple. So they got in bad passing situations and were not efficient. But if they can run the ball on you, all of a sudden that offense becomes really, really explosive and difficult to stop when the coach has every play at his disposal in the playbook.
Yeah, in fact, I know, Jay, you're going to get into the film room. That injury they have on the left side is significant for them.
No question, and that's going to be a problem if they're back there holding the ball, throwing it. And again, we'll talk in film room. They've got some really creative run scheme things that they do as well that Penn State's going to be ready for.
Yeah. Now they give up just 73 yards a game rushing defensively. Again, let's go to the transfer part. We talked about the quarterback. Getting Shaq Smith from Clemson to transfer in has really helped that defense, Todd.
He's a graduate linebacker. He's a senior, and there's a couple of seniors on the team that are leading this defense. They do have some experience. Their leading tackler is a senior in the defensive secondary with Antoine Brooks. So, it's not always a great sign that your defensive back's leading the team in tackles, but when a guy is in run support and can get the job done, he's going to step up and do it. So they do have some leadership on defense. Still some question marks on that side of the ball, though. Yeah,
Isaiah Davis, of course, is a veteran. You mentioned Antoine Brooks. What's interesting about him, we talk about Micah Parsons going backwards, being an end in high school, now a linebacker. Brooks was a linebacker for them last year. They moved him back to safety, I think part necessity, but he's had to move back as well, Jay, and that is a big adjustment.
Yeah, it's an adjustment, but they want him there because they're going to need some help tackling, and they're definitely going to be the case on Friday. Excuse me. hard to get over that.
You have to adjust, Jay. It's the 21st century.
I know.
We now play college football on Fridays. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at the Penn State defense. An important bye week for them. They've played a lot of players so far. Cam Brown, the senior outside linebacker, feels that they have made strides during the bye week.
Big goal was third downs and our screen protection as a defense, really. So we try to emphasize that. We did a lot of third down periods, a lot of emphasizing on our blitz packages and making sure we're doing everything we can to be right. And that comes with film, too. That comes with everything. We just want to make sure we're tightening up the little screws because even though we're playing good defense, we're not playing great.
You have to play good situational football. That screenplay, I mean, Jack Ham called it out on the broadcast before they ran the plays. You got to think screen here. Yeah. What hurt about that play was they were in man. Okay, they were in man defense, Todd. That's what you got to say.
Yeah, and it's recognition right away. Yes. Not only situation that you're looking for, but how the play is flowing. If it's a jailbreak at the quarterback, hello, they're kind of letting you come in, right? They're kind of setting it up. And so for a linebacker, for Cam Brown to talk about that, that's a good thing because they're part of recognizing that screen, which way it's going to flow to, and get over there and bust up that play.
Well, no question, and you got one of the things we talked about last week about things to work on was screens and the pass game, and they've obviously got to make some strides there because teams have been able to throw the ball at Penn State, and part of it is pass rush and the linebacker. It takes all three levels.
And it's a dangerous play for Maryland because they want to get the ball into those running backs' hands because they get it and they get a little bit of open space. Whew, they can gash you.
Yeah, they want to get into that one-on-one matchup with you and a linebacker. They'd love to have that. Well, Josh Sperber takes a closer look at all of this.
You'd better hope Penn State got some rest during the bye week because the Maryland Terrapins, also coming off of a bye, will be no slouch to open up Big Ten play.
This is the end-all, be-all, really. Every game from now on, all Big Ten play games it holds a little bit more weight and a little bit more stake.
The Terps come into conference play with a very fast team that ranks just half a point behind Ohio State as the second highest scoring offense in the Big Ten. But Penn State's defensive unit is talented and confident that they know what it takes to slow Maryland down.
Having speed on defense, that's the first step, honestly, and being prepared. We have to look at the film. We have to make sure we know and play anticipated football, make sure we know what's going to come at us at a certain formations and things like that.
I don't think there's any doubt that people are max protecting. I don't think there's any doubt that people are chipping. But most importantly, we've been able to make people one-dimensional. Now, once we make people one-dimensional, we got to be able to take advantage of that.
This will be the toughest offense Penn State has faced in the early goings of this season. But there's no time like Big Ten play to prove just how good this Penn State defense is.
Well, and this is, as Cam Brown said, this is the be-all, end-all for the next 9 games. He's got it spot on.
Yeah, and I like how you battle speed with speed, because Penn State has a lot of speed on that side of the ball. And, you don't just sit back and react to everything. You go and you play some aggressive defense and you make some things happen. When you have some speed, you can react a little bit, but without being over-pursuing, right?
Yeah,
and giving those guys too many lanes to run.
Right. You can run a team out of something. You can run them out of it. I'll use what you do against you.
Yep.
All right. All right. So now let's get to the tail of the tape, brought to you by our great friends at GoPSURV.com. We are setting up, by the way, for homecoming, I do believe. It's
been an offer made, so I may have to spend the weekend in the RV.
All I know is somebody wants green M&Ms.
I know.
I mean, it's like, it's like being at the Jordan Center having to deal with talent. You can see what the tail of the tape said. And big numbers, obviously, for Maryland offensively. You can just see it sitting right there. Some of that's Howard, but, gee, Syracuse is in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 630 yards against Syracuse. It's hard to get 630 yards against the air. I mean, that was an incredible performance. But, again, you look at the Temple game, they made some key mistakes, and Penn State's going to have to force some mistakes.
To me, what that says is a little bit about momentum, too. I mean, there's certain sports where momentum, where things are just clicking, they work for you all day long, and certain athletes respond to that. Maryland seems to be one of those programs that responds to that. If things are going good, man, they're really coming. They're really going well. If things are going south, they go south quickly. So, I don't know, we might get a read on them in the first, second quarter about how a game may flow for the Terps.
And in fact, that injury, again, we go back, we're going to revisit it again, but that left tackle, I think, is a significant one because, again, Maryland's still a program that has a margin of error.
Yeah, there's no way of, you can take him south pretty quickly if the quarterback has no time to throw.
Can Josh Jackson beat a team throwing the ball?
We may find out. Hopefully we find out on Saturday.
Right.
Or Friday. I know. Hopefully find out
Get
in
yourself
this,
together.
Hopefully we find out in this game whether he is. Because if Penn State can force him into passing situations where he's got to hold the ball, not 1st and 10, not 2nd and 3, but where he's got to hold the ball, then I think that plays to Penn State's advantage.
What about the wide receivers for Maryland? I mean, they've got some guys that wide out can play and get some speed out there, guys.
They got some big guys, some speed out there. Nobody's really kind of established themselves, though. I mean, like their leading receiver, I think, has 9 catches or something.
Right.
But it's for 20 yards, a catch. So they're explosive, definitely, and it's going to be a challenge. But Penn State's got good corners. So.
What about the field position part? Gilligan, Stout. I mean, does that play a big role in this?
Well, Stout obviously is going to put him on the 25-yard line every time, and I'm a big fan of his. And Gilligan's got to have a big night. Because, again, Gilligan at times has had unbelievable nights, and then every once in a while he slips one of those ones in there where he doesn't punt as well. And hopefully that's not Friday night.
Players to watch defensively here, and this is brought to you by our good friends at Planet Fitness. All right, so which player do you want to watch?
This isn't just for this game. This is for the Big Ten stretch. I'm looking at Micah Parsons. I think this is his breakout year. I think he's an elite athlete defensively. Had a week to self-scout a little bit. I'm looking for him to react and really have a big rest of the season.
I want to see Yetur Gross-Matos. I think that's a guy we got to watch on Friday night because did not have a tackle at all against Pitt, and with the matchup potentially at tackle, with Maryland's problem, but I think he should have a big night.
The 2 corners, John Reed, Torrey Castro Fields. You have shutdown guys at corner. I think it frees up everybody else. All right, coming up, we'll take a closer look at this game as we break it down for you as we continue with Blue White Tailgate after this. All right, welcome back. Take a look at the Penn State offense now. Guys, when you look at the offense, what are a couple of items you're looking for to say, okay, you know what, they're starting to settle in? What are you looking for?
Consistency in the run game. As we mentioned, almost 60% of their run yards came against Idaho. They have not been consistent running the football in the last 2 games. I think that's a big thing. Pass protection, I think, we got to see what the offensive line does in the next 5, 6 weeks to really know if we're a consistent offensive football team.
I think we're going to see more deep ball and see if Sean Clifford can connect a little bit with the receivers deep. I mean, that goes to the offensive line as well, though. I mean, if you're talking about consistent run game, same thing, being able to step back, get a few seconds, and let the receivers go deep enough to get the deep ball going.
Yeah, that's one of the key analytics that, for whatever reason, you're looking at games now. If you see a team averaging better than 7 yards per play offensively, and then defensively they're giving up fewer than 5 yards per play, the winning percentage is off the charts the way it is. And it's one of those that people haven't talked a lot about, but I think it's starting to gain a little traction. So let's get to the Bobby Rahal Offensive Drive of the Month. Hey, so we just took the whole month.
Which is the whole season, by the way.
It is the whole season. And here it is. It's that 13-play, 88-yard drive last week. Started out with that out pattern to Jahan Dotson. But what was great about this drive was the mix, Jay. And here's Noah Cain in that mix. You know?
And again, they stayed on schedule, and they didn't have, they really didn't face a lot of third and longs, and they were getting good yardage on first and second down.
And Noah Cain with that forward lean. And then, all right, so here's Clifford. He's able to have some escapability that really helps. And then Noah Cain, for the 4th time this season, knocks it home. He leads them in touchdown here. And he's the kind of guy, let's take a situation. 4-minute offense, which is talked about all the time. Does that look like a good 4-minute offensive running back to you?
No doubt about it, and that's the thing is, that drive was beautiful, 13 plays, but I think that's the unusual drive for Penn State. I don't think that's going to be the normal scoring drive for them. I think it is maybe a personnel package that is set up to eat a little clock off, if they're ahead against Maryland in the 3rd, 4th quarter, whatever you may see depending on personnel. But, from what we've seen the last few years, I think they're looking for the big play to lead to most of the scores. And so I love to see that kind of drive. I just don't know how often we're going to see a 10-play plus scoring drive from Penn State.
And that plays in a time of possession, which, you look at it, there are going to be some games in November. That's going to be an important thing. And I think Penn State's about 124th or 125th in the country in time of possession right now. And when you've got a lead in the 4th quarter, you look at the Pitt game, even if they got the ball back for the missed field goal, they could not close it out, and you want to see that start to happen.
Yep, and that's two consistent things that we've seen, though, through the years as we do the show. It's kind of a recurring theme about this style of offense. Time of possession, they don't control the ball as much as the opponents do, or that. And 3rd down conversions. That's another thing that they struggle with. If you go deep, take deep shots, whatever it may be, and miss, now you're off schedule a little bit. It's a little bit harder to convert.
Yeah, so let's get to the tail of the tape. Brought to you by our good friends at GoPSURV.com. Certainly, Todd put together a list of things in the RV you want.
I'm difficult.
Well, I'm noticing
more difficult than it looks, right?
But the golf club thing, I actually like that. That was good. You can see how it plays out between the two is what Penn State does offensively. But the Maryland defense, again, there's that big one. 74 yards rushing, they give up a game, Jay.
That's been a change for them. I mean, it's been a little bit of an issue for them, and they're playing better up front. And but again, hopefully Penn State is a better offensive football team than they've seen. Although Syracuse in the past 2 years has been pretty electric. We'll see what happens on Friday night.
Yeah, I want to see if there's some chunk plays in the run game. And we saw Journey Brown, bust a big one off, and we've seen a lot of 20-yard runs plus in the last few years. I think that's going to be key if they can gash them through the middle a little bit with some draws, some whatever, with the running backs, get that going.
Do you guys still see the running back rotation with 4 guys?
I do.
I think this week probably. I think the interesting thing will be when they hit the 4-game mark. Does somebody step back and redshirt? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a freshman.
That's right.
A guy like Ricky Slade, who has 12 carries through the first 3 games, where does he fit in? And Clifford has carried the ball more than anybody right now.
It's pretty clear on the depth chart. They're all or Journey Brown or Ricky Slade or Noah Cain or Devin Ford. I think the rotation continues.
And what people don't read, Journey Ford's the only one that's used. Journey Brown is the only one that has used a red shirt. So he'd be the only one that would not be eligible for one that you want to go that way. Actually, they could if they wanted to with Slade. I'm not saying they're going to, but they could. All right. You mentioned Sean Clifford. Well, he's out there every game. There is no rotation there, and Mike Loxley is impressed with Sean Clifford.
He's a guy that can beat you with his arm and his legs. He's made plays where I've seen him run away from defenses as a ball carrier, but also has thrown the ball really well.
There's no question he has, but they need a stem to stern consistent game from him, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And I think, that, again, he's a guy that he's got to get in a rhythm. When he's in a rhythm, I think he can hit 7 in a row and miss 5 in a row. And I think the deep ball, he's got a little sharper with the deep ball and a little bit more velocity on it because Some of the ones he's hit have hung up there a little bit.
Yeah.
And against better secondaries, that may start to go the other way.
Yeah.
I think the bye week was extremely valuable for Sean Clifford for some self-scouting to see some of the things that you're just missing on, you're just not clicking on, and address some of those things in practice and come out and make them happen in the game.
Look, and he's got a big-time tight end that can be that guy who had one catch against Pitt. So let's get to our Planet Fitness players to watch. And so let's go around the horn here. Jay, we'll start with you, offensive player to watch.
I want to see your outside wideouts have big games, because I think if you look at the first 3 games, people have pressed the outside wideouts. They're mostly static when they line up, and they've taken them kind of out of the game, which then allows people to kind of work linebackers and safeties on Freiermuth, or linebackers and safety helping on Hamler. They've got to take some of the pressure off the inside guys.
I hate to be Captain Obvious, but I'm going with Clifford. I mean, I really think you just got to watch the guy, and you know, it's going to go the way that he goes. And so I really want to see a close watch and see if they've changed or addressed some of the things that they were struggling with.
Was that a Hotels.com product placement
just,
that you're taking money on the side from Hotels.com for a Captain Obvious reference?
I'll go with Pat Freiermuth. I think he's a quarterback's best friend along the way, so I'll go with him. Film Room is coming up next.
We are back on the Blue-White Tailgate, and we are in the film room. We're going to break down the Terps and take a look at their offense and defense. It's brought to you by Beer Bellies Beverage. So this sounds like the beginning of a joke. I want to ask this question. How big is this game for Maryland?
I don't know. Let's take a look at the screen and we'll show you. Now that is at the Syracuse game in the second half when they're leading. So they're clearly focused on this one. But all kidding aside, let's take a look at what Maryland's going to do in terms of their offense. We talk about they want to run the football. There's no question about it. And we mentioned this early in the show. They've got a couple of creative ways that they're going to run the football. The first is what we call a outside sweep. And they're going to pull the center and the guard, which is something that we at Penn State has not seen yet. And they're going to pull these guys out the edge, block the edge, and sometimes they'll do the RPO with it. So let's take a look at this video as we go. And again, watch the center and watch the backside guard pull. They get out there and they stretch that defense, and their running back, because of the speed, forces a nice cutback lane to get in there. The other one they run is what we call a little fold play. And what that means is they're going to block back with the center, take the backside guard, and pull him around and lead up on the linebacker. They run this a bunch. It's a very effective play. It's a north-south play. And with Penn State liking to get their ends up the field, and when they play their 4-down guys and having wide inside guys, this should open up. So take a look at the video on this one. Again, the center blocks. Here comes the guard. And there he is meeting a linebacker downfield. And there's a 10, 11-yard play. Again, Penn State's going to have to do some things to handle that. The other thing that Maryland's going to do is they're going to do some things formationally to try and make you decide where you're going to play. So Penn State defensively, if they come out, Maryland puts out 2 tight ends over here, you've got to play the run game because they run the ball effectively, which then leaves you one-on-one with their wideouts. And take a look at how they take advantage of that with the pass game here. Again, they do some RPO things off this, but there's a one-on-one, nice easy slant throw, gain of 7-8 yards, and those are the kind of throws they want their quarterback making in the first and second down. The other thing is that Penn State should be taking advantage of is that Maryland has had some problems in terms of their offensive tackles. Watch the technique on these guys is something that they've got to improve on. Gross Matos and the guys up front should have a big day. The other thing is they don't want to be in 3rd and long because the quarterback is inconsistent and he will stare at guys on occasion. But as you watch this video, take a look at this tackle down below. He lunges, he gets his head in there, which is what you don't want. Again, now Penn State should be able to force him into making some decisions that he doesn't want to make, and he will stare on those long yardage plays.
I caught myself staring at the left tackle that you're talking about on that particular situation. Okay, so Penn State offensively, and I made reference to this before, not a good time of possession team, and they struggle with 3rd down conversions. That's a consistent stat, and it might be a product of them being a big play offense when they're scoring points. The problem is when they're not scoring points and hitting big plays, then these things start to become issues.
Right, and I think what we got to find out some more about Penn State's offense. If you look at this screenshot, the last 10 games against Power 5 teams, Penn State is 6-4 with just 23.4 points per game and just 31% on third downs. They have got to improve on that. We've racked up some big numbers against teams like Idaho and Buffalo, but again, they've got to do a better job and be more consistent. Now, some of the things that Penn State likes to do, when you look at what Maryland does, that zone read stuff that they do, Maryland and the RPO stuff, Maryland is a little bit different in that they're going to come up the field, which is going to cloud the read for the quarterback, and then he's in the throwing lane as well for the RPO. So take a look at how he plays this. He comes up the field, and now even if you want to throw the ball, he's in pretty good position, and he's also in position to take the quarterback and the running back as well. Does a nice job there on that play. The other thing that Maryland will do is they're going to give them some man free. As we mentioned earlier, we want to see these guys at Penn State start to become a factor and take some pressure off their ability to double up Freiermuth. They're going to put the guys in the box and take away the run game, force you to throw the ball. And again, that's been a little bit of a problem. Now, Maryland will bail a lot and not a lot of press, but we'll see. So take a look at here in the video what you do. You got a nice high safety in the back. You got one-on-ones, and Penn State's got to take advantage of those things like Syracuse does here with that. And I think Penn State can do that because these corners are not as good as the ones Pitt's at. The other thing is the blitz scheme for Maryland. They're going to be very, very aggressive. Again, not a great pass rush team, but again, they will come at you. Take a look at this. They're going to come real aggressive and bump your guys on the outside. They come up the field. But again, Syracuse picks it up, throws the ball, gets it out of there. If Penn State's able to pick up the blitz and give Clifford time to throw the ball on rhythm because Maryland's bailing, they'll have a big day. The other thing too is they're going to do some things to handle Hamler. They'll take this safety and bring him down and double up that slot. Again, we talked about the pressure on the outside guys. Should also give a chance for a guy like Freiermuth to get one-on-one, but I expect to see this coverage and take a look for those safeties coming down to help on the slot. So take a look at how Maryland plays Syracuse with this. And like Penn State, Syracuse likes that RPO slant, and when they come in and double on it, they're in position there. And again, that's something Penn State's got to take advantage of. I expect Hamler has got to have an impact on this game.
All right, big game for Penn State and Maryland on a Friday night.
Yep.
Big game for these guys, too.
Yep.
Tell us about this little relic.
This is one of, again, Virginia is at Notre Dame, probably the biggest game they've played this century. This was the biggest game they had played up until that time. My first year coaching at Virginia, Virginia was #1, played Georgia Tech. We lost a great game. But if you look at this, you got Virginia at 1, Notre Dame at 3. And if Virginia wins this one, they could be off to a great run.
All right, we'll see. I get to pick that one a little bit later on. All right, Jay Paterno in the film room. We'll be right back with a special guest here on the Blue White Tailgate.
Time now for our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back Trey Bauer to the set. Trey, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
My
it's
man.
all good.
Let's just establish a couple of things quickly.
Well, I'm the best looking guy in this panel.
As usual.
Of course.
That's not saying much.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
A couple of gargoyles
Okay.
I'm sitting next to, but
Ole Miss, Mississippi State.
cheaters.
Okay. Virginia plays Notre Dame, your pick?
Virginia by 100.
Yeah, okay. Right, because there's not something about Notre Dame you don't like?
That's right. They played great against Georgia, didn't they?
Yeah.
Frauds.
Did they win?
No, they didn't.
No, they did not.
No.
All right, so we do have to ask about the first ever Trey Bauer start, which was in 104-degree heat
Yes.
at high noon
Yes.
in College Park in 1985.
Correct.
And Trey Bauer went out there right away in his first start and
Threw up all over the field. Because all the trainers said, because it was so hot out, I mean, they literally were taking fire trucks to the stands because, hosing down the stands, the fans, it was so hot. In fact, it was the first game, I think, in Joe's career that we warmed up without equipment on. We just had our pants on. We didn't have our helmets. We didn't have, anything because it was just so hot. And I was drinking so much water before the game, and then all of a sudden it was just came out. And to this day, Mike Russo, our nose guard, just never lets me forget that he had to put his hand in my puke. That's where it was. So, yeah.
What
it
a
was
moment.
very hot, to say the least.
What a moment. But you won the game.
We did win the game. They were ranked #1 preseason. We were unranked, and we ended up the season ranked #1, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow that one. I don't know where I can go from there, other than to say Friday night football.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're loving this.
It's ridiculous. Why? Just because every other conference doesn't mean that the Big Ten has to do it. And it's like if you think about it, it's like we're not going to do it. Ohio State's not going to do it. Michigan's not going to do it. But then you're going to have Maryland do it. Like why? I don't really understand. I mean, first of all, it's a home game for us anyway. I mean, the last time we went down there, we waxed them by like 60. It was like 60,000 people, and I think 55,000 were Penn State fans. So why they move it to Friday night? I mean, they're just doing it for TV, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. It's the reason they're doing
it's ridiculous.
it. Yeah. But it's funny. I asked Jim Delaney about that. I said, are you surprised, Jim, by the blowback you're getting on Friday Night Football? And he was genuinely shocked.
Why would he? Well, that's why he's not there anymore. But, I mean, he shouldn't be shocked by that. Why? Because college football should be played on Saturdays, period. End of story.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about the linebackers at Penn State. Obviously, there's a lot of talent there, but also some of it's young talent. So there's a growth curve here. What are you seeing?
To me, the fact is that they're so aggressive. It's really interesting to me. The fact is that they're playing like they're a lot more experienced than they are, other than Jan Johnson, who's played a lot of football for us. But between Micah and Cam Brown, I mean, they're very athletic. I still think that Mike is playing out of position. I think I'd rather see him on the rush side, the edge side. But you're talking about linebacker and the tradition that we've had here, and they're the 3 leading tacklers on the team. 2 years ago was Marcus Allen, who was our safety. I mean, so that says a lot about the depth that we have now.
This Maryland team that they're going to face is unique from the standpoint of they got a couple of explosive backs. As a linebacker, when you're playing against guys that have elite speed, what kind of pressure does that put on you to shed a tackle, shed a blocker a little quicker? Are your eyes looking at different keys? How do you play a team that has explosive backs?
I think one of the things which is really important is that you have to kind of play, within control of yourself, which is kind of hard when you're as a linebacker, and I certainly didn't do that a lot when I played. But you really have to kind of stay focused on what you're doing, and kind of it's almost like stay in your lane almost, where you don't want the guy being able to cut back. You don't want to giving up. Obviously, you have to tackle well. I don't see us having any problem with this Maryland team, for sure.
All right, I want to get into situational football. We always talk all the time in baseball that before the ball is hit, the fielder has to know where he wants to go with the ball. How long did it take for you in terms of film study and playing games where you had a pretty good anticipation of where a ball might go?
I think for me, my first year, like in '85, I mean, the game was really fast for me.
Yeah.
In 1985, and Maryland had a really good team. I think they were ranked #1 when we played them.
Yeah.
But as the games wore on, it became the game really slowed down for me. So it was probably after like the 3rd game, where it really kind of came on. I mean, as far as like Mike is concerned and Cam, like they've played a lot of football, so they should be like on automatic pilot and let their athletic ability just take over.
All right, they're coming off a bye week. What do you want to see from Penn State after the first 3 games? Because offensively, young team trying to figure out an identity. Defensively, a little bit more experience in that area. What do you want to see? What are you going to be looking for coming out of a bye week with this team?
I think it's really important for them to get off to a fast start. If they don't, and they're playing on the road, it's kind of a weird game. It's a night game on a Friday. It's all new for them. And for a young team, it's one thing if you had like a veteran team, but if you have a young team, we're going into something where they never played, really on a Friday night, certainly in college. I mean, they did it in high school, but I think it's really, really important to get off to a fast start. I mean, I would defer. I'd let the defense on the field first, 3 and out, and then just really take it to them.
Yeah, how important will a guy like Gross Matos be in a game like this to help out the linebackers?
Oh, I think it's enormous. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, and he's going to be playing, he'll be playing on Sundays next year. I think he's a talented guy. And I just think that Penn State has just too many weapons for them. I mean, you think about the depth of this team, from what it was a few years ago. It's really, I mean, James and the staff they're doing a great job recruiting, and we should have no problem with this Maryland team.
Deep down, in some way, do you miss us?
I do. I actually do. I don't miss Jay, that's for sure. I don't miss Jay at all. I miss John Straw. I miss you. I miss Todd. But but.
They don't drill for oil that deep. It's great to have you back.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. And really, to tell a story like that, that's where the payoff was.
It's all right.
The good, the bad, the ugly coming up next. There have been several references in this show to Saturday. That would be you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the game is Friday night, and Cam Brown discussed playing on a Friday night.
You don't have games to watch. You don't got anything to occupy your time, really. But that's when I feel like guys are getting more film and guys are sleeping more. So I feel like it is productive in a way to have it on a Friday rather than late Saturday.
I'll be honest, I rail about Friday night football all the time. It should be for high school, and I'm so guilty. I watch the college game all the time on Friday night.
We're part of the problem because we watch them.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want to really make a statement, turn the TV off Friday night. But again, we can't because you got to watch the game.
And I was worried about Jay earlier. I thought we might get a text on Saturday. Hey, what channel's the game on? I can't find it. But I think he's come around and he knows where it's going to be.
Hey, I don't want to hear anybody whine about the Fridays because when I was my second year at UVA, we played Saturday and Thursday.
Yeah.
And that was a short week.
Yeah, that's hard. All right, now time for the good, the bad, the ugly. I get the good. Trey Bauer came back to the set today. The good.
I get the bad, and that would be Michigan. Whew. Watched that game against Wisconsin and knew Wisconsin was going to be tough. But they just took them apart. Michigan didn't seem like they had any identity. They couldn't stop anything. They didn't look strong. They didn't look fast. They just didn't look good, which is bad.
Yes. And my ugly, I did some yoga this morning. I'm at peace with the universe. Namaste. No ugly for me today.
Really?
Really. I am just at peace with it's fall. It's beautiful. It has been an unbelievable September weather-wise. How could what's ugly?
He's passing on ugly.
I'm passing on ugly.
That's
It's
right.
just too beautiful. Although I will say this. The one ugly thing is, can we get past only quarterbacks get considered for the Heisman Trophy? Because Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin right now.
Yeah, it's good.
Everybody in the world knows he's getting the ball. 23 carries, 203 yards against Michigan. He is a phenomenal football player.
He half passed on ugly.
Half passed.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into ugly. Time now for our picks. Brought to you by the good friends at the Center Daily Times. Now, this is ugly. Okay, along the way. So let's get out of the gate. And Josh, you get to go first.
Tom Allen said that Indiana's starting quarterback will be a game-time decision against Michigan State. Whoever does start will face the 5th-ranked defense in the country in a place that Indiana hasn't won since 2001. I think Michigan State's going to win and keep the old brass spittoon in East Lansing.
Thanks, Josh. I've got number 24 Kansas State at Oklahoma State. I happened to watch a lot of the Texas-Oklahoma State game last Saturday night. Really impressed with Oklahoma State's offense. I think they get it done here.
All right, so I end up with Washington at home in Seattle taking on USC. Great win by USC on Friday night, but I think Washington's a more complete team. Easton's off to a great start. I go with the Huskies at home.
And oh, how I wish Trey was here to pick this Notre Dame game, and he's probably going to put me in a headlock after he hears who I pick. But I'm going with the Fighting Irish at home against Virginia. They look, it's possible they could have a down game after a really tough matchup at Georgia, but they look pretty solid. They held their own between the hedges. I'd go with the Fighting Irish in this one.
Trey is not happy with
I'm going to have a headlock.
But then again, it was a several-year pattern there, too.
I'm glad you got that one, because being married to a UVA alum and having started my career, I would have had to pick Virginia. And I still am, because I want them to win, dang it.
All right, time now for our Blaze Alexander Keys to the Game. Brought to you by our great friends at Blaze Alexander Family Dealership. I get to go first. I'm going to go back to what Tariq Castro-Fields talked about earlier in the show. I think getting off to a good start in this game by Penn State is critical, because I think you have to take the crowd out of the game. It doesn't mean the crowd doesn't come back in from time to time, but you've got to, I think, play with the lead and keep them out of it as much as possible.
I think the important thing is going to be staying on schedule offensively and getting Maryland off schedule. Both of these offenses are, it's like Major League Baseball. They 3 and out or they hit a home run. They've got to stay on schedule offensively, and they got to get Maryland off schedule, because they're both built that way.
So I went into Trey's doghouse by picking Notre Dame. I'm getting out of the doghouse by saying tackling. I really think it's a big, big deal for Penn State. Maryland is explosive. And even in the secondary, look, they're going to give up 7, 8, 10-yard plays, but you can't make them 50 and 60. So they got to really tackle well, wrap up, and get some help to the ball carrier.
Well, this, I think it's a great opener. In the Big Ten. They're close enough. There'll be enough Penn State fans there. I think it'll be fun to see this game play out.
Well, Maryland, they get this game scheduled, circled under
this
schedule.
This is their Super Bowl.
I mean, my
they
senior
canceled classes for crying out loud.
My senior year at Penn State, we tied them. They tore down the goalpost. The athletic director got a game ball for a tie. So,
all right, for Todd, Jay, Josh, and Trey Bauer, I'm Steve Jones. Thanks for joining us on the Blue White Tailgate.